Hey everyone, I'm Deplorable Bobby, and this is my Friday night live stream. I'd like to welcome you here. I know as of right now there's no one in the chat, so hopefully I'm talking to those who'll be viewing the replay. And I'll be honest with you, I get a lot of people viewing my replays, and I'm grateful for that. So I'm talking to you right now, and I just want to gather some people in here. It'll take a few minutes. I really don't care about my PayPal, so I'm going to go ahead and just tell you now that my PayPal information will be somewhere in the chat. If you'd care to donate to my channel and help me grow, that'd be great. And if not, it's not a big deal. Hello, Margot. How are you doing? It's so good to see you. You're the first one in here, and you proved to me that my chat is working. So we're doing pretty good right now, Margot. It's always good to see you in here, as well as DM. DM is so glad to see you. I'm always happy when I see your little wrench show up. You're a great mod. So hopefully other people will get in here. I've got quite a few topics to talk about. For one, hello Fred, how are you doing, brother? Glad you're here. My internet phone number is 404 900 1777, and it'll be somewhere in the chat tonight, I'm sure. So feel free to call me. And like I said, I'm talking to the few people here that I know, like Margot and Ron at Dangerous Freedom, and Rebel Jack and Fred Nod and DM and Knight's Armory. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate you being here. But I was just talking to the people who will. Let me turn this phone down so I don't get any alerts. We'll just turn it off. And but yeah, I've got a lot of topics tonight, and some of them are not so savory. Some of the topics I want to talk about tonight will make you want to retch. But people, it has to be said, and never let it be said that I'm one to shy away from the truth. You know, it's a lot of times that the news is out there that they don't show to everybody, but it's out there to be seen for those who search. And sometimes that news is devastating. I mean, to say the least. I mean, I find topics, and I find in my research, I find things that are not published to the mainstream media. And that's what it's all about, is not being hooked in to the MSM and searching for yourself, or go into people's channels who do the search. But Knight's Armory, I want to thank you for being here, brother. Jim, I want to tell you, I went on you and Joe today, I went on your website. I can't remember the name right off my head, but feel free to put it in the chat if you'd like to. I can't remember, Jim, I'm sorry. But I went through your website there, and I saw this 120th anniversary K-Bar Army knife, and I'm going to tell you, as an Army veteran, and I had to have it. There was no question about it. I'm in the process of buying some new guns, but when I saw that knife, I said, well, a payment on my gun is going to have to wait, because I got to have that knife. So I ordered it, Jim, and you know that, and I'm grateful that you got back to me. Thank you. Jeff Brandow, Florida Jim, Ancient Drummer, Rebel Jack, James Wells. So glad you're here, James. Give Darlene a big hug for me. And let's see, we've got some people coming in here, and I want to get started, but I want to talk to you about something right off the bat, you know, that a lot of people don't care about. It's going to be just sort of a passive little story until I can get a few more minutes on this live stream and gather a few more people maybe. But it is a Friday night, and Friday nights are not always that great. But it's always great for me, because I get to share what little bit I've learned with you. But I want to talk to you about the Straight Pride Parade. Now, I know that all of you have heard about gay pride parades, LGBTQ, HRSTUVs, and whatever other letters they want to put in there. You've heard about their parades. Well, there happened to be a straight pride parade. And I want to tell you how this thing turned out in Boston. American Warhorse, so glad to see you, brother. I was talking about you today with Dangerous Freedom, and I want to tell you, brother, we love you. You're a great patriot. Amy O.O., long time I have not seen you. Thank you for being here. I talked to you a few times on the phone, but you sort of disappeared. I think you were having phone trouble there for a while. Glad you're back, Amy. Good to see you. American Warhorse, Fred Knott, Dangerous Freedom, Florida Jim. Great people in here. Ancient Drummer, Knight's Armory, American Warrior. I'm going to tell you, Warhorse, I'm sorry, American Warhorse. But I'm going to tell you about what happened this week. Well, this week a judge refused to dismiss charges on 36 protesters. Now, normally when you think of people protesting, it's going to be the minority that is protested against. Well, here's what happened. The protesters that were arrested at the Boston Straight Pride Parade last weekend were the counter-protesters, and they outnumbered the parade crowd. So you see, you've got the streets of Boston lined up. They love parades in Boston. They have them for everything. But anyway, they're having a straight pride parade. And both sides of the street are lined with these LGBTQ, HRSTUV people. And they don't like it. And they get really upset. So like I said, the protesters outnumbered the paraders. And they're accused of straight pride organizers of using this opportunity to embrace the vibrancy of heterosexuality and creating an atmosphere of hate and violence toward the LGBTQ, HRSTUV community. Well, these LGBTQ, HRTUV people, these punks and thugs, were arrested. And they were arrested for being disorderly, for resisting arrest, and they even assaulted police officers. Pete the Patriot, glad you're here, brother. Good to see you. You, along with Dangerous Freedom and Knight's Armory and American Warhorse and DM Fred Knott. It's great to see you people. It's always good, Jeff Brandau, I'm telling you, brother. But anyway, here's the deal. The judge in this case stated that he agreed with the Boston Police Department. And that's something odd for the judiciary to go along with the police department. But they were thinking the offenders all live outside of Boston. They're not even Boston residents. They came here to agitate, and they came here for a specific reason, and that was to create havoc in the city streets of Boston. For once, we have a judge who actually saw something for what it is. But we have this demon rat. She's one of the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse. Her name is Annie Ann Presley. She called for an independent investigation into the use of force by police against the arrested counter demonstrators who were causing harm and breaking the law. But of course, you know, you had AOC, Alexandria Ocasio, I'm sick to my stomach, Cortez. And you had that Ilhan Omar, who is in this big fight right now with her ex-husband because she's having an affair with one of her staff members. So you see, it doesn't matter if you're a devout Muslim and you wear your head covering and you profess to be all these things. You're still just a woman. And when you don't have your face in front of a camera, evidently you act like a woman, or this man would have nothing to do for you. So why don't you just be the woman that you pretend to be with this man when you're alone, and be the same person in front of the camera? We might actually even like you, but I doubt it. because you're putting on a show every time there's a camera or a microphone anywhere around you, Ilhan Omar. You and Rashida Tlaib and AOC and this Annie Ann Presley. And of course, AOC and Omar and Tlaib and Presley, they set up a damn GoFundMe page, people, to pay for these people who got arrested for being violent and protesting at a straight pride parade. These people were arrested, and they're setting up GoFundMe pages and funding for their bail to get them out of jail and for their fines. People, do you see where it's at today? What's wrong with being straight? I've been straight all my life. And if straight is being square, well, call me square. I've also been called square. You don't hear that these days. Back when I was growing up, people say, be there or be square. And if you were square, then you were part of the establishment. Well, people, I'm not a part of the establishment, and you know that. But I want to change topics a little bit now that I've got people in here like Margot Dahlgren, American Warhorse, Amy OO, Dude a Man, I haven't called you out yet, glad you're here, and Rebel Jack, Pete the Patriot, DM. So good to see you people. Fred Knott, Dangerous Freedom. I haven't seen Liberty Smith in here yet, but he's got a couple of grandkids with him tonight, so he may be late or he may be sporadic, but he'll be here. But on this segment, I want to talk to you just a little bit about the wasted tax dollars that are wasted every year by our government. And people, these are totally wasted tax dollars. They have absolutely nothing to do with humanity. They have absolutely nothing to do with progress. It has absolutely nothing to do with the American way. They're given grants for totally idiotic ideas and totally irrelevant studies. These studies don't mean a thing to anybody. Here's a few of their outrageous examples of government waste of our tax dollars. Sandra Ann McGibbon, glad to see you, glad you're here. Crow Minion, thank you. Cherry Chalnick, glad you're here. And Duda Man and American Warhorse, James Wells. I have to shout you people out every so often because you keep coming in like Tony Patriot. Thank you, my friend. Tony Patriot goes live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And he also has other times that he goes live. So just hit that bell icon when you go to see Tony. And we got John T. Cash in here. And Crow Minion, as I said. So good to see you people coming in here, along with Cherry. Glad you're here too, Jeff. But anyway, I'm going to tell you just a few of these wasteful things that we're paying for. And I want to know why we're paying for them. It makes absolutely no sense. How much money would you pay to know the mating calls of bullfrogs in Panama? I mean, really, how much would you pay out of your tax dollars to know the mating call of bullfrogs in Panama? Well, people, it cost us $500,000 to do a study on the mating call of bullfrogs in Panama. We spent $10 million, people, $10 million on green growth in Peru. Have you ever been to Peru? Peru, Bolivia, all of those South American countries, they're covered by the Amazon. Good Lord, they got more trees than any place in the world. That's where 40% of our oxygen comes from. They have so many trees. So why did we give Peru $10 million? Come on, people. There's no logic here. What's next? And I mean this seriously. What's really next? They've even got a study on shrimp running on a conveyor belt or a treadmill, if you'll have it. got this shrimp running on a treadmill to see how much electricity it can create. So now we're going to get all these shrimp and we're going to put them in aquariums and we're going to get clean energy from shrimp. Come on, people. See what I'm talking about? They have such outrageous things that we're spending tax dollars on that could go to the border. It could go to the anti-abortion issue. It could go to the RNC. It could go anywhere. It could go anywhere. But to these scientists and these people who are trying to do these things, that mean nothing to us. I question the State Department's spending on all these matters. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to expand Pakistan's industry in filming. Why do we care if they film well or not? Why do we invest $100,000 in Pakistan's film industry to ensure that they produce good films? People, why are we responsible for paying to make Pakistan's learn how to make films? It's wrong. It's stupid. If they can't make a film that's worth watching, well, then don't watch it. Why do we have to spend $100,000? Simply put, it's the intent of these demon rats to waste our tax dollars. And that's what it's all about. They get so much money every year allocated for these grants. So they have to spend it. They have to give it to something. They can't just let it sit there. Because if it sits there, let's just use a number off the top of my head. $20 billion. So they're on a budget of $20 billion because they're funding all of these things that make no sense, as well as many that do, such as the CDC and a lot of things they do. Some things they do are wrong as well. But anyway, we do pay for some good research out of this. But the question that is put to me is this. Why do they waste our tax dollars? It's because they are allocated $20 billion, let's say, for this year. Well, if they don't spend but $18 billion out of that 20, well, next year their number is going to be reduced. They're not going to get the $20 billion that they've been getting because they had allocated money that they didn't spend. So do you see what I'm saying? They're going to spend this money that they're allocated so they can continue to get money in that same amount or more. Well, man, 757. Glad you're here. Sandra, Teacup. I'm glad to see you, Teacup. It was good talking to you earlier today. But you see where I'm going with this, people. They spent over $2 billion just to remodel the Department of Homeland Security headquarters. Who spends $2 billion remodeling a building? I'm sure it probably incorporated all of the high-tech stuff, and all of these supercomputers and stuff like that. I'm sure that's where the money went. You'll never spend $2 billion on one building. People, I did remodeling for a lot of years. I did commercial high-rise glass. I've been in a lot of big buildings, and you don't blow $2 billion on a building and it be something small. So evidently they're paying for a lot of technology. But the main thing I want to know is, what are we going to be spending our tax dollars on next? Well, my guess is we're going to be spending tax dollars on, let's see, maybe the effects of gamma rays on men in the moon marigolds. How about that one? So let's get a bunch of marigolds and let's hit them with gamma rays and let's see what happens to them. Surely we could get, $500,000 for that, maybe $1 million. Sure. And how much does it cost to do it? Maybe 200 grand. So now what do you do with the other 800,000 off of that $1 million? You're going to put it in your pockets and you're going to spend it where you want to. And next year you're going to do the same thing. People, it's sickening where our tax dollars are going. It's a pity that we don't have a control over where our tax dollars go. We don't know. We pay them every year. Every single year we pay our taxes. Every week, those who work, or every 2 weeks, pay their taxes. They're going to get your money no matter what. But what are we getting in return? We're getting nothing. Nothing in return. And you know, Medicare and Medicaid and their improper payments head the list of all of the wasted money. Believe that. Medicare and Medicaid heads the top of the list of all wasted taxpayer money. Okay, I'm going to look you straight in the eye. I'm going to tell you, yeah, I'm on Medicare. I'm on disability. I have been since 2010. But I had documentation, and I had the proof that I can't hold down a full-time job anymore like I used to. But people, you have to understand, it took me 5 years of hard times to get my disability. It wasn't like I went up there and I applied today and tomorrow I received it. I did without for 5 years. I did totally without for 5 years. If it hadn't have been for my family, I don't know what I would have done. So people, we need to stop and take a look at the Medicare and the Medicaid and the disability in America. There are some who are truly disabled. But people, we have so many people right now. I have a family member who is trying so hard to get disability, and there is absolutely not one thing wrong with them. They are as fine as sugar. I mean, they don't have a problem. But they see free money somewhere in the future. People, it's a shame and a disgrace. It's not only them, it's the people on food stamps and the people taking Medicaid, you know, when they don't deserve it. And that's the problem. And the government, you know, account office has listed Medicare and Medicaid as the highest risk programs for the most wasteful spending in the years since 1990. Every year, it's Medicare and Medicaid fraud that we lose our money on, above all these other frivolous things they allocate money to. But there's no doubt that the Medicare trust will be completely depleted in time. And I'm saying probably by 2025 or 2026, it's going to be depleted. And then where's the money coming from? Where are we going to get the money to fund this stuff? Generation Z and Generation X aren't going to contribute. They're too busy sitting in their mom and dad's basement watching X-rated video games and listening to MSN and CNN, hanging on every word of Hillary and Obama, and they may even go to Fox and listen to Donna Brazile. You see, people, we have no future. What happened? What happened to the generations teaching the next generation how to live? You know, I heard it said when I was growing up, you know, in the hippie movement, they said, oh no, they said, this is a disgrace. These people will never amount to anything. Well, those same people who were hippies were the same ones who, after that era was over, went to college, got degrees, got doctorates, became doctors and psychologists and nurses and teachers and all these things that they are today. And even I myself walked away from those hippie, love, sex, rock and roll ideals and learned how to be a man and to live in this society and to be a true patriot and live. I haven't lived the best, I'll guarantee you that. But I've had a life I wouldn't trade for anything. And it's because as time goes on, you have to adapt. And I pray that Generation X and Generation Z are going to adapt one day, and they're going to get out of the basement. They're going to quit going to Antifa rallies. They're going to quit all of this anti-gun, anti-life, pro-abortion stuff. They're anti-family. They don't want to get married. They don't want to have a family. They don't want to live the American dream. They want free stuff, the free stuff that we're promised. We are literally promised everything free if we'll just vote for any of these demon rats that are running for president over Donald Trump. All those free things, free health care, free education, free housing, free food. Heck, we're even going to give you a car. But the problem is, if you go along with that agenda, you're going to lose that car. You can't have anything. And I'm going to get to that in a minute when I start talking about this Green New Deal. But maybe the real improper payment and the spending that's mandatory by Congress to allowing Medicare and Medicare to grow unabated, letting it grow until it's going to balloon and burst. They're doing nothing to slow it down. And when it comes to wasteful spending, the federal government is a target-rich environment. We need to identify examples of wasteful spending and somehow create procedures there in D.C. to stop this stuff. But it's been going on since the beginning of time. May Powell, glad to see you. Terry Christ, I'm so glad you're here. Fred Nault, Knight's Armory, thank you for hanging around, Jim. You're a great guy. Pete the Patriot. Duke Rawl, if I haven't called you out yet, I'm going to. Liberty Smith, DM, the best mod going. And while I'm talking about it, and I'm in between little stories, might as well say, DM, check her out, pardon me, on Saturday nights. DM and History V have a great show. They go live at 9 p.m. Check them out. DM, be sure you put that link somewhere in my chat so people will know where to find you. As well as Knight's Armory. Knight's Armory's a great guy. He comes on live on Saturdays and Sunday mornings while I'm having coffee. And he's just a great guy. He's the kind of guy that you just enjoy sitting there shooting a bull with and having fun in the chat, telling riddles. Plus, he tells us things that we need to know, and he shows us things, in the movement of the Patriots. He's a great guy. Matter of fact, I bought a knife from him today. Dangerous Freedom bought one a little while back, and he kept showing it to me, and he kept flashing it and showing me what a great knife it was. And so I said, well, I'm not going to let Ron outdo me. So today I went on the website. I can't remember the name of it. Y'all put it out there. Follow Florida Jim. Put Joe and Jim's store out there. American, I cannot remember what it is. People, my head's spinning right now. I got so much going through my head. But you know what it is, DM or Liberty Smith or Fred or somebody. So you put Joe and Jim's information out there about their store. They have great products. I mean, it's just an awesome store, and they're doing a great job. Support these people. Support American Joe and Knight's Armory. They're good people. Support them, just like Tony Patriot. Support him. Terry Christ and Teacup and Liberty Smith. Liberty Smith has been putting some good stuff out there. He likes to post every now and then. Check out Dangerous Freedom. I'm trying to get him to do more live videos, but right now he's just doing a couple of videos on the side. But check him out in his last video. He's a funny guy. Glad to see you're still here, Amy, and Duke Rawl, Rebel Jack, Philip Turner, Chris Link. Man, it's always great to see you people. But I already know how this story is going to turn your stomach. I know that some of you are going to turn your heads and you're not going to want to hear this story. But this is a story that's in the news today, people. This is what they're coming out with because they're already planning. We have this Green New Deal, and climate change. We just had that CNN thing yesterday, Wednesday, I'm sorry. 7 hours of climate change. And supposedly that was the only topic. But of course, each of these 10 demon rats that are running for president of the United States all got 40 minutes. And they all veered from topic, as all demon rats do. But people, how in the world could anybody, I mean, even if you're being paid, sit through 7 hours of demon? You know, climate change is something that happens all the time throughout history. America, not just America, the earth has had at least 3 ice ages. And then it has a warming period. And then it has a cooling period. This is called evolution of the earth, not evolution of man, because there is no evolution of man. Man was created by God. But so we have this evolution of earth. But they're trying to say that we're destroying the earth and that within 10 years, we're not going to have an earth anymore. So here's what they're trying to push on us now. Now that we have a social commitment in our government preaching the Green New Deal of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and anyone who will listen to the lies about climate change. As AOC and her hordes of the anti-Americans not only want to take our guns, they want to remove all cars and all other vehicles from the streets of America to save our planet from the greenhouse effects. All homes and buildings must be retrofitted or tore down to be climate efficient. Never mind the fact that all domestic farm animals are not going to be allowed to live. And they must be removed permanently from the earth because all of the methane released into the air by farting farm animals. We've already heard AOC talk about the farting cows. Well, how are we going to farm if we don't have gas for tractors or diesel for our combines? How are we going to plant? We can't have livestock. We can't have oxen. We can't have cows. We can't have sheep or goats. We can't have horses to pull our plows. How are we going to turn our ground? Are we going to do it with a hoe? According to them, that's what we're going to have to do. Because we're going to get rid of all the animals because they produce methane when they fart. We're going to get rid of all cars, anything that's gas operated. Well, people, they are talking total stupidity. But yet this is what CNN spent 7 hours on. You know, when they remove everything, like our cars, our gasoline-operated engines, our homes, our farm animals, anything that farts, well, the only thing that's left are humans. And I don't even know if our favorite family pets are going to be able to survive this. But you know, let's see how this plan works in real life. All vehicles, motorcycles, cars, trucks, planes, they're all removed. All farm equipment's removed. All farm animals are removed. There's no livestock for meat. There's no cows for milk. There's no useful products. We don't even have leather. We don't have anything. We can't harvest crops, not to feed America, because it takes machinery to do that. So what we're going to have to do is, I guess every one of us is going to have to get a little plot somewhere and grow our own food. People, this Green New Deal is sick from the very beginning. It's stupid to its core. And when you remove vehicles and animals and farming from the food chain, you don't have a food chain anymore. So even the thought of a Green New Deal is idiotic. So how are we people in America going to feed ourselves and our families? Well, I found the answer. And I promise you, you're not going to like it. You're going to be surprised, and you're probably going to be shocked at what I'm about to tell you. But once you become aware of the lies of everything that lay ahead for our children and our grandchildren, be prepared for this. This whole climate change thing is a hoax. We all know that. We who have a third grade education and a mental capacity of a third grader understand we don't have a climate change problem. The discussion on climate change has become sickening and it's become disturbing. Because at first glance, I thought it had to be a sick joke of some kind when I first read this. I didn't think it could be true. But this is a dead serious topic, and I want everyone to understand this is a reality of what we're hearing from our college professors and from the people who are supposed to be leading the world. At a summit for food of the future, it was hosted, and there was a PowerPoint presentation given by a Swedish professor asserting that we must, get this people, I want you to hear all this. Dennis Lawson, good to see you, brother. Lynn M., glad you're here. Tony Patriot, Knight's Armory, DM, Philip Turner, Dennis Lawson again, Fred Knott, glad you're here. But you got to hear this, people. This is something I really want you to hear. At a summit for food of the future, hosted a PowerPoint presentation by this Swedish professor, asserting that we must awaken to the idea. People, she's saying that we need to step back, that we need to close off everything we've ever known. We must allow our brains to be awakened to a new idea. Well, people, that idea is eating human flesh. She says eating human flesh is a way to combat the effects of climate change worldwide. Behavioral scientist, this is her, Mangus Sutherland, and maybe it's a he, I don't know. What is Mangus? Is that a man's name? They argued for breaking down the ancient taboos against desecrating human corpses and eating human flesh for substance. This person was dead serious about telling us that we need to turn Soylent Green. Do you remember that movie way back in, I think it was in the 70s, of Soylent Green? It was all about a futuristic society who ate a green goo for their sustenance. And it was the remains of the dead and aborted babies. Even back in the 70s, they were talking about this stuff. People, we can't be blind. We can't be like a mule with blinders on that only sees what's directly in front of us. Because, we have people like these idiots. And this specific Mangus, whoever he is, he refers to the taboo against eating of human flesh as a conservative idea. And that little by little we can be persuaded to just taste it. Now this guy's dead serious, people. He's talking to a whole society of professors at this summit. Once the domesticated animals are gone and we've eaten all of our pets, there's no more insects. We've eaten all of them. The human flesh industry will be introduced as normal to the world. Eating human flesh will be introduced as normal to the world, just as pedophilia is being introduced today in California. Once you reach the 9th grade in California, you can be sure that you're going to be taught that pedophilia is a normal sexual orientation. That doesn't make it right because people in California say it's okay. It's just like eating humans. Who in the world would eat human flesh? I'll tell you who eats human flesh. You got people like Jeffrey Dahmer, okay? He's the only instance I have to even speak of. He killed young men, cut off their heads and body parts, kept them in his refrigerator and freezer, and he ate them. D.A. Archer, brother, I'm glad you're here. I love you, D.A. It's always good to talk to you on the phone. I've got a few bugs flying around here tonight. But you know, we have to talk about these things. And so who's going to be eating these people? It's going to be the elite. Because people, they're going to be the ones to do those things that you and I refuse to do. You know, the resistance of eating human flesh asks the question, is cannibalism the solution to food sustainability in the future? Well, according to this professor and a lot of his followers, they believe that we will become eaters of human flesh. You know, there was a time, I don't remember the date, I should have researched it, but there was a group of people called the Dahmer Party, and they were crossing over the mountains from Reno, Nevada, over into California. And they got caught on top of that mountain in a snowstorm. And people, I've been to Donner Pass. That's what they call it now, Donner Pass. I used to drive an 18-wheeler and I used to go west, and I got stuck there for a week in Reno, waiting to cross Donner Pass because there was 8 foot of snow in the roads. So on Donner Pass in the wintertime, when it snows, and it snows, and it snows. So these people were cut off. They were cut off from all society. They sent people out trying to get through the snow into California to get a rescue party to come back and save them. But nobody ever succeeded in making that trip. So the Donner Party, after they had eaten all of their livestock, after they had eaten everything that they had, they ate their leather, they ate their shoes, they ate their belts, anything they thought that might sustain them, before they started eating the carcasses of those who had died. And people, when it comes down to life or death, you never know what you're going to do. I will not believe anything anybody says. If you tell me I will never eat human flesh, I'll say to you, friend, you just haven't been put in the situation yet. You don't know what you'll do. I, like you, I would pray that I would never do that. But I'm not saying that I wouldn't if it came down to life or death. I don't know. I pray to God it never happens. But there are those who do get caught in this situation. It was like the soccer team that had crashed in the Andes Mountains, and they were stranded on a mountaintop, miles and miles and miles from anyone. And even they eventually ate their own. But what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about making it a practice of eating human flesh. You know what? When I asked if we would eat human flesh, that professor who was doing this talk said he would. Just because he doesn't want to look like a conservative, he said, because only conservatives would not eat human flesh. So he admitted that he would be open to eating humans because he's not a conservative. Well, I don't know, Dennis Lawson, D.A. Archer, D.M., Lynn, Duke Raw, American Warhorse. I mean, I love you guys. Fred Knott, Chris Link, Terry Christ, Tony Patriot. What would you do in this situation? Seriously. You don't know, do you? Sandra, you can't give me an honest answer and say you would not. Because we just don't know. And people, we have an example of all this cannibalism, and it comes from Papua New Guinea. You know, there's a tribe there called the Four Tribe, and they've been eating the dead family members for decades. But then you have to also think about they have many instances of Kuru disease. I talked about Kuru disease a long time ago on a Hillary video. I talked about her weird eye movements and her strange mouth gestures and her becoming frozen in time and not moving, not being able to walk, needing help up and down stairs. I talked about Kuru disease and how the signs and symptoms display themselves. Well, people, it comes from eating human flesh. And this professor, this so-called scientist, he never even mentioned the detrimental effects of eating human flesh. We're not supposed to eat ourselves. I'm not going to cut off my hand and have it for supper, and I'm surely not going to eat yours. So people, as Christians and as Americans and as patriots, we have to just be aware that we have people out there talking this crazy stuff. And you have these liberal nutwads that are listening to this stuff. It's absolutely crazy. It's beyond absurd. But the absolute insanity comes from California, as always. It never ends in California. Every day or every week there's another story. Well, now the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, get this, has declared the NRA a domestic terror organization. Excuse me. In a resolution passed on September 3rd, the officials are urging other city and state federal governments to do the same thing. The NRA is now a terrorist organization in San Francisco, California. We can't even get Trump to take that next step and declare Antifa a terrorist organization in America, a domestic terror organization in America. And yet here's California calling out the NRA, making them a terrorist organization. Well, San Francisco, tell me something. I want to hear from your mayor or from some of your council members or somebody out there. I want to know what good is calling them a terrorist organization going to do other than get your name in the news? For what other reason do you have to name the NRA of all people? Today, the NRA is probably one of the least effective gun rights organization in America. Believe me, I'm an NRA member. I'm a life member. Have been for years. Always will be. I support the NRA. But the NRA gets a lot of bad flack. And some of these panty waist liberals, gun owners, they're starting to walk away from the NRA. So yeah, the NRA isn't as strong as it once was, but it's still strong. And then we have other gun rights lobbyists. And between all of us, we're going to stand strong in our Second Amendment. We're not going to allow them to tear it apart. You know, the resolution accuses the NRA of inciting gun owners to acts of violence. So now the NRA is telling people to go out and shoot people and spreading propaganda that misinforms and aims to deceive the public. It aims to deceive the public about the dangers of gun violence. And the city will restrict or limit all public and private vendors from doing business with the hated NRA. So here we got San Francisco now is not even going to allow vendors who may have a NRA t-shirt or something in their little deal that they sell there in the street. These vendors will not be able to sell items because they support the NRA. People are attacking our Second Amendment on every turn. It doesn't have to be President Trump doing it. It's these cities that start this stuff, and it turns to the county and then the state and other cities and other demon rat hell holes like Baltimore and Portland and Washington, D.C. and New York City and Boston. They all start jumping on the bandwagons. This is a reckless assault on a law-abiding organization, and it's an assault on its members, and it's an assault on our freedom. President Trump, thankfully, has backed off of his presidential downfall stance on the red flag laws. Meanwhile, the President Trump has acknowledged that gun violence is a national public health emergency. Well, I wouldn't go quite that far, but I would agree with you, President Trump. It is a public health emergency. And that emergency comes long before these people are known to be violent. But he emphasized the problem is not with guns, and he was right. The guns are not the problem. Rather, it's the people pulling the trigger. Reiterating that the mentally ill should not have guns. Well, guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I agree with that, what I just said. I agree with it 100%. Our president doesn't need to be making stance on the Second Amendment right now. But yeah, we need to figure out something. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know what it's going to take. But there are people out there who have guns who shouldn't have guns. But then again, how many illegal guns are owned in the city of Chicago? Go figure, people. That's where all the violence comes from. You hear of gun violence only when a white man, a Trump supporter, who isn't even a Trump supporter, he isn't even a patriot. He's just a loose cannon with a gun. And rather than call him a demon rat for what he probably is, because it was them that stoked his fire and made him angry, we're going to get the blame. White American patriots, gun owners, are going to get the blame for every shooting that happens. But what about these senseless shootings you hear nothing about in Chicago every weekend? Literally dozens, if not hundreds, die every weekend in Chicago. Never mind New York, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, and Portland. Seattle. It happens all over the country. Here in Atlanta, we have multiple murders every day in the city limits of Atlanta with unregistered guns owned by criminals. So you see, people, it's not us, the lawful gun owners of America, they should fear. They need to spend their time and money getting the guns out of the hands of the criminals. But see, that would be doing their job. You see, it's much easier to play along with a simple plan, a plan to take down America, one patriot at a time, one gun at a time. They don't care about the lawless. It's just like on the border. They don't care about the illegal immigrants. They could care less. All they care about is that they keep coming in. Just like the guns. Keep them coming. We need these murders. We need these killings. All they're about is killing black people anyway. You may get mad at me for saying that, but black women are targeted for abortion. They're targeted. They're targeted by every person who believes that you should have your child aborted. They approach the black women on every turn, from their doctors, the hospitals, the nurses, their friends, their family. It's not you and I. I've never aborted a child in my life and never would. I could never be a racist. I want every single child that ever lives to be birthed. And I don't want them aborted somewhere along the line. I don't care if we would have a population explosion. So what? At least we wouldn't be murderers of preborn babies up until the day of birth. And you know, Trump, I can't even get into this, people. I have talked so much tonight. I've got like 3 more stories left. I'm not going to get into all of them. So I'm going to end it up here. I'm going to say thank you to each and every one of you. Lynn, thank you. Willman 757, America Warhorse, thank you for hanging out for the entire stream. Terry Christ, Knight's Armory, brother, I appreciate you. Looking forward to getting that knife. And I'm going to unbox it right here when I get it. So I'm going to be giving you a big shout out then, Knight's Armory. Jim, have a good one. I'll see you in the morning. We're going to Crow Minion. Thank you, brother, for being here. Lynn, Amy OO. Thank you, Amy. I'm glad to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Katrina Stafford, thank you. And Tony Patriot. Philip Turner, American Warhorse. Knight's Armory again. Lynn, DM, Conservative Patriot, D.A. Archer, all of you. I want to thank you for being here. But time is winding down. Nobody says I have to go an hour, but I try to keep it somewhat in that time frame. So Liberty Smith, put that number up there, brother. Call the White House. Get in there, Pizza Patriot. Call the White House. Let them know how you feel. Same thing, Lynn. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here. But as I try to do on my live streams, I would like to, I've got a bright light shining right there for some reason tonight. I moved my seat over a little bit. Now my light's too bright. But people, I love you. I'm going to end this live stream here in a minute. But I want all of you to know that I'm grateful. I'm grateful every time I look up and I see your name. It warms my heart and it gives me hope. You know, it gives me hope that maybe I'm doing a little something to get a message out there to those who want to hear it. So before I leave it tonight, I'd like to say a short prayer. Lord God, thank you again tonight, Lord, for the opportunity to socialize with friends, Lord, and to share what you've given me. Lord, I want to thank you for these opportunities. Lord, I want to thank you for those who join my stream. Lord, who participate. Lord, who are willing to hear what they need to hear, even if it's a terrible thing. Sometimes, Lord, we have to talk about those things that we don't need to hear or want to hear, but we should hear. Lord, thank you for all the blessings you've given me. Lord, you've blessed me my entire life, even when I knew it not. Lord, as we close tonight, I want you to go with each and every person in here. Lord, give them a blessing. Keep them safe. Lord, keep them all together as one. And let us join back together here again in a couple of days. Lord God in heaven, I love you. I thank you. Lord, thank you for your Son and sacrifices he made for us. In Jesus' name, I pray these things. Amen. People, remember our children. Remember the sexually abused and the aborted and the trafficked. Remember each other. Keep each other in your prayers. People, we are a family. And while there's still people in here, Tony Patriot, I want to give you another shout out, brother. Tony Patriot named us the Patriot family months ago. And so far, we're standing together. We've had people, Susie, glad to see you. I haven't seen you in here yet. We have people that were in our family who are no longer here. And they're not here because they weren't true patriots. They weren't people who stand on the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And they weren't people who believe in camaraderie amongst ourselves, and to tell the truth and to be honest. And several have fell by the wayside. It doesn't matter if they fall to the wayside, if they're not true patriots, God-loving Americans. So people, thank you. Tony Patriot, Sandra Ann McGibbon, Terry Crisp, Willman 757, Amy OO, Awaken Angry, glad you're here, Dennis Lawson, American Warhorse, Dangerous Freedom. I'm glad you're here. It's 9 o'clock straight up. People, I'm going to back out of here, and I'm going to let somebody else come on and entertain you. Sue Eason, hello to you, dear friend. Glad you're here. Rebel Jack. Yeah, Joe's going on a little bit later, but you got to catch him. Catch American Joe. Awaken Angry, thank you. I'm sorry you were late too, but you made it. Watch it on the replay. To everybody that I see on the replay, God bless you. Everybody, this is Deplorable Bobby, and this is the way I see it. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and I'll see you Sunday at 8 p.m. God bless and be safe.